Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. As we start, can you say a few words about your current role? What's in your purview?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the chief marketing officer at a company called ThreatX. So we are an API application protection platform. Joined
Mhm.
the company about 2 years ago, just prior to closing Series B, and have been working with the marketing team and the executive team really in three key areas. One is scoping out our positioning in the context of API protection. Number two would be working hand in hand with the sales team to really look at the programs we can put in place to build a qualified pipeline. And then
Mhm.
three is just serving as an overall leader of the company along with the rest of the executive leadership team.
Got it, got it. And that means everything from kind of demand generation, field marketing, product marketing kind of rolls up to you, right?
It does, yeah. And the way we really think about marketing here is in the context of the customer journey. So, what are the channels, the content, the tools, and the people we need to really drive overall awareness of the ThreatX brand, associate that brand with API protection? How do
Mhm.
we then engage with potential prospects to introduce them to the platform and our capabilities, nurture them through that cycle, and then once they come on board, how do we look at really creating an outstanding customer experience that
Mhm.
encourages customers to come back,
Mhm.
expand, ideally recommend us to others in their network?
I understand. I understand. Well, that kind of paints the picture, and now we see this dot on the career trajectory. But to get a sense of the whole line, how did you get started in cybersecurity marketing? I noticed you had a few notches under your belt, some of the large organizations. But what was the starting point? What was the impetus of your journey?
Yeah, so when I first got out of college, I spent about 4 years at a couple of PR agencies in the Boston area, which personally I thought that was a great early experience. It really provided a boot camp type of
Mhm.
environment to really learn communications, PR, analyst relations, and the like. From there, the first job I had within a vendor itself was with a company called RSA Security, which many have heard
Mhm.
of. Joined that company, and it's where I really kind of got the taste for cybersecurity. So I was with RSA for roughly 5 years in various roles, communications, product marketing, et cetera, and just saw, number one, I think the overall kind of enthusiasm for the market generally. Number
Mhm.
two, the really expansive nature of cybersecurity, right? So you could work in various areas of it and continue to learn and grow as a professional.
Mhm.
I think number three, just the demand for those sorts of solutions and the real, I think, challenging nature of solving those problems. So RSA was the first bite. I then moved in-house to a company called Raytheon, which is better known as one of the world's largest defense contractors, but ran marketing for their cybersecurity business unit.
Mhm.
Transitioned to a company that ForcePoint majority owned, called ForcePoint, which was majority owned by Raytheon, ran corporate marketing and then marketing for their government business unit for a
Mhm.
couple of years, and then more recently transitioned into the early stage company. So
Mhm.
they joined a company called Zero North
Mhm.
just about 4 years ago. Soon after its Series A, I was employee number 17. So going from Raytheon with 50,000 employees to Zero North with 17 was quite a transition. But that was, I think, a really neat opportunity to get into an early stage company, really look at what are the people, processes, systems that you need in place to really build a brand and build demand. And then
Mhm.
that's what's carried me over to where I am now at ThreatX.
I understand. I understand. I think it's amazing that you have kind of almost a kind of 360 view of the large organizations, venture funded, rapidly growing venture funded startups, and that gives you a very interesting vantage point. From your perspective, what advice would you give to someone who's just embarking on this journey, maybe transitioning from technology marketing to cybersecurity marketing, or maybe even more upstream of that, just kind of looking into the space? There are so many different things one can be doing, and time is everyone's most precious resource. What are two, three things you would recommend those junior professionals would focus on to set them up for success?
Yeah, so I'll kind of separate into two buckets. One is sort of professional actions and choices you can take, and one is
Mhm.
more on the personal side. So I think from a professional standpoint, I think when you're early on in your career, getting exposure to as many areas of marketing as possible to
Mhm.
understand where do you want to go deep and
Mhm.
where do you want to create um, understanding and experience, but maybe you go a little less deep. Because when you
Mhm.
look at things such as demand gen, product marketing, communications, field marketing, they're very different. They're all required. But as you grow in your career, having a sense of what all those areas do and how they interplay and how they work together is really
Mhm.
important. The
Mhm.
other thing I would say for an early career professional is take on stretch roles.
Mhm.
So get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if there's
Mhm.
a position that opens up or a project or someone needs support that may be completely out of what you've done previously,
Mhm.
jump on it. It'll give you a chance to A, learn something new, and B, really demonstrate that you're a go-getter and that you're interested in learning.
Absolutely.
And I think third, from a professional standpoint, is be really open and remember that the cybersecurity market is incredibly broad. You could hit on AppSec one day, identity access management, data
Mhm.
protection, et cetera. All of these areas are very different. There's some commonalities in terms of thinking about the buyers and that
Mhm.
selling motion, but it really gives you a good chance if you explore more than one area to have a
Mhm.
more, I think, well-rounded view of security.
Mhm.
From a personal standpoint, so it's interesting. So I coach a bunch of elementary school kids
Mhm.
twice a week for about an hour before school. It's a program that's really designed just to get them moving and kind of burn some of their energy before they settle in the class. And one of the things we talk about is to be the kid of the week, you have to demonstrate feat, which is friendly, effort, attitude, and teamwork. And as I
Mhm.
think about that, that's what we're asking the kids to do. I think anyone who's building a career needs to do that. The security market is small. People know
Mhm.
each other. Be kind, be professional, show that you're engaged, and work as a team. It's all about what we can do together to really build the company you're working for and the brand. And I
Mhm.
think that really keeping that grounding is really important for folks as they build their careers.
I understand. I understand. It makes a lot of sense. It's uh to in the kind of in the well, cybersecurity is a team sport in the end of the day, and everything is changing and moving so fast, both in cybersecurity and the tech side, but also in marketing as well. So network and network not in the sense of just connecting with people for the sake of connecting, but really developing relationships, because these are your go-to uh, resources when you have a quick question. Just picking up the phone and getting a response right away, or sending an email, getting a response right away. Kind of that's the testament of the strength of the network, more so than some of the other factors. But what you mentioned is actually, I think, it's very interesting, and I would argue, and I'm wondering your thoughts on this. So to get kind of a broader overview of all different aspects of marketing, it would probably make more sense to either join a fairly early startup, because you'll be wearing many hats and you'll be asked to do many things, and then the startup grows to your the stretchy goals. There'll be plenty of those as the organization kind of scales and develops. Or on the flip side, join a large organization with a specific program, rotation program, where you can go from one department to another and be groomed in a way for kind of a more senior position once you get exposure to all those efforts. So kind of those one or the other, I would probably provide this breadth of experiences early on. Would that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. And, I hadn't actually thought about it specifically in that exact context before, but I think you're spot on. When I think about it, I think that, and of course, I come from my own experiential bias, is that um, early on being in larger companies, what it gave me, particularly at RSA Security, was role modeling, mentors, and
Mm-hmm.
experienced people around me who could
Mm-hmm.
help me to learn and become a better practitioner in each of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So while the movement, I would say laterally from project to project or area within marketing might have been a little slower, it did allow me to do so with people who had done it for a while and could
Mm-hmm.
help coach me along the way. I think with a startup, the challenge you'll run into is oftentimes, and it depends what stage and how early
Mm-hmm.
and how developed the company is, but you may be doing it on your own. And so there are fewer people to surround you with that have
Mm-hmm.
the ability or the experience to kind of coach you up. So it really depends where you are in your career. Personally, going the former route, starting with larger organizations before then taking that body of knowledge into a startup worked well. But I
Mm-hmm.
think depending on your own personal DNA, going
Certainly.
the early stage route earlier on might work well as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it but just understanding the different dynamics working for a large organization, well resourced, but maybe not changing as quickly as a small organization that's not well resourced. It's not, there's no deep bench of mentors, but it's moving really fast. I guess it's a personal decision based on your risk tolerance and your interests.
Well,
Uh,
and it's what your own, again, your DNA is made up of.
mhm,
So if you're, if you're risk tolerant, if you're ambitious, if you're willing to put yourself out there
mhm,
and make mistakes, fail fast, figure out what's working and replicate it, early stage can work really well. If you are at the stage in your career where you need some really clear support mechanisms, some sort of boundaries to help you kind of understand where your lanes are. Larger
mhm,
companies will do that. One isn't bad, one isn't better or worse than the other. They're just very
mhm.
different. It really depends what works for you as an individual.
Certainly, certainly. Kind of switching gears a little bit. Well, marketing is a big toolbox of different shiny tool, not necessarily shiny, but different tools. I'm wondering, it seems like to the point that everything is changing, new tools getting added or the mix of the tools deployed is changing over time. So what's working for you now? What's producing outcomes, the kind of business outcomes, that kind of further the growth and address the objectives in front of the marketing team, but also in front of the sales team?
Yeah, I mean, so again, just to be clear, at the end of the day, our job is to support ARR growth, right? To close won opportunities for the company, to
Mm-hmm.
back it up, we have to create qualified opportunities, and that is what we are here to do. The various things we do to support that are many, could be from brand to programs, digital, et cetera. But the goal is qualified ops that convert to ARR. In that context, and I think the environment that we're in now has been certainly a little the peaks and valleys. It's been a little wonky the past 9-12 months, but what has worked really well for us of late are higher intent programs. So
Mm-hmm.
things like paid search, paid media, where
Mm-hmm.
we are engaging with someone who's actually who's participating in some sort of activity, and it could be a Google search, where they are putting themselves out there and saying, I'm looking for a solution to this problem. So
Mm-hmm.
those paid channels are working quite well for us right now in terms of bringing in prospects who are demonstrating higher intent, who
Mm-hmm.
are moving to either investigate a project or move into a buying mode. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing quite a bit there. The other area, which is, a little bit, let's harkens back to pre-COVID days, were
Mm-hmm.
event small things.
Mm-hmm.
So where we're able to get in front of a human being, introduce them to the ThreatX brand, talk about our value proposition, and then show them what we deliver from a technology standpoint. And I don't know, I believe there may be a bit of this, let's get back into the world of seeing people, and getting back to events, maybe impacting that. But we were
Mm-hmm.
seeing quite a bit of success from those two channels, so the paid channels
Mm-hmm.
as well as what we do from an event standpoint.
I understand. I understand. And the events, do you mean like RSAs and black hats, and Gartners of this world, or more kind of more smaller round tables that are local and major metropolitan areas that are more for, I don't know, 15, 20 people, on a Wednesday night?
It's really, I think, a combination of both of
Mhm.
them. So we're seeing meaningful and material results on both fronts. I think the key to all of these is that you have to remember that while you will find folks who are in market at events,
Mhm.
the vast majority are not there yet, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what we have to bear in mind is that's where the entire kind of necessity of nurture, building those relationships,
Mhm.
building trust with those prospects comes into bear. So we've had,
Mhm.
a handful of opportunities that were opened up in the past couple of months that came from major trade shows a year ago. And that's
Mhm.
because people we encountered that we spoke to were at the stage in their journey where they were interested in learning more about what we were doing, but we're not there in terms of looking for a budget, looking for a
Mhm.
specific project or anything of that nature, but they
Mhm.
are now and they know who we are. So I think as you think about events and those types of programs in terms of supporting opportunity creation and ARR, it's going to
Mhm.
have a much longer tail, and you need to be
Mhm.
comfortable with that.
Interesting, interesting. It's I want to kind of double click on the intent piece, which I mean we talk a lot with cybersecurity marketers and but also cybersecurity practitioners on the other end, and kind of the general sense is that kind of the sales cycles are getting longer and the projects sometimes are getting smaller. It's some companies kind of experiencing certain economic headwinds, and with this in mind, just looking at the kind of sales funnel, or I mean customer journey, if you wish, when you're dealing with intent, it's something that when prospects are already showing intent, sales cycles tend to be shorter. They are more engaged. They're responding to marketing messages. They're taking demos. Attribution is easier because they're already downstream in the customer journey. They're getting ready to the point where they're ready to engage, whether it's a POC or a demo. They're walk this path. They walk this customer journey, and they're ready to become a new opportunity at the top of the funnel. And because the cycles are shorter, because attribution is easy, it's an easy proposition to go to the CFO or to the board and say, this is the program, we'll invest in down funnel opportunities, and we'll put $1 here and $2, $5 coming down the end. It's a fairly easy decision. When we go upstream for more kind of demand generation realm, attribution is not as easy, because if you talk to someone a year ago, how much that event contributed to them becoming an opportunity downstream, or maybe it's an email from a salesperson, maybe, or the new topic that's kind of more top of mind for other people is, the concept of dark funnels, where some of the conversations there's no attribution. They happen in private Slack channels or over coffee with a colleague, or as a side conversation at Blackout RSA that is not tracked. You don't know it happens. There is no way to track it or influence it in a way, right? So it's really kind of creating, whether it's content or creating experiences upstream, where attribution is fuzzy, sales cycles are long, and it's much harder sell for the CFOs to invest in those, but they're needed. How do you think about kind of balancing the two, the programs that you mentioned work with all this upstream work that's really kind of necessary, but with a little bit more less straightforward attribution and longer expected return? I understand it's a loaded question, so
yeah. No, it's a loaded question. It's a great question. So I think there are a few ways that we think about and approach that. I think number one is, particularly of a company of our size. So again, we're Series E, we're earlier. Any programs that are, not any, but the vast majority that are demand creation oriented are also going to have some demand capture lean to them, right? So we're not running pure brand awareness programs that don't have at least some ability for us to capture a name, I won't call it a lead, that we can over time. So that's number one. Number two is we try to do, and I'm sure we could always do a better job, is use examples and qualitative, storytelling to demonstrate internally and to the board and to others how all of this works. So for example, we'll come with a case study to show, okay, here was an opportunity that opened up in Q3 of 2023. What happened before that? They requested a demo. What happened before that? They viewed a product tour. What happened before that? They landed on this blog. And they landed on this blog because they were Googling X, Y, and Z. So what we do is attempt to show as much as possible how a journey unfolds, to then support the notion that we cannot and we will not be able to grab everyone the moment they head to market. That's simply unreasonable, and that's an unattainable goal. What we can do is we can use really thoughtful content that educates our prospects on an overall problem area and shares our point of view, that engages them and is something that they want to watch, read, listen to, etc. If they do that over time, and when they're ready to start investigating or moving towards a purchase cycle, we will be on their radar, right? And they'll be more apt to engage with our content, look at how we position ourselves, compare ThreatX to our competitors, and then engage with our sales reps. So I think it's really important to, one, again, for a company our size, ensure that any brand program, for the most part, also supports demand capture, and that
Mhm.
we're continuing to educate folks on the fact that very rarely, particularly when you're looking at an enterprise sale, are you going to get someone who, requests a demo and an opportunity opens up overnight, right? Sure, it
Mhm.
happens, but that's not the expectation. We need to build our profile, we need to build our brand, we need to build our
Mhm.
audience, and then
Mhm.
nurture those people in a really thoughtful, respectful, professional, and useful way over time. So
Mhm.
when we're ready, we can capture them.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you want to create content that's thought provoking, so that CISOs or whoever kind of fits your persona, they can find those breadcrumbs. They're avid learners, and they understand that cybersecurity is changing all the time, so they always want to learn about new vendors, new products, new threats, but they want to do it on their time and on their terms. But you leave enough of them with a clear path of from blog to a demo, that once they raise their hand, then you can engage them in a more sales motion, rather than kind of going after the entire total addressable market with trying to get close everyone for a demo, which is kind of a heavy lift, and will be met with resistance, because they qualify, but they're just busy with other projects, other priorities. But you leave enough of content they find thought provoking, valuable, thought leadership, engaging. You mentioned case studies, and this kind of expedites their customer journey, so they get to the point where they are ready to engage with a more kind of demand generation motion. You'll be there. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, agree.
Um, I know we're coming up on time a little bit, Dave. A few last questions. Imagine you have a crystal ball, and you can see into the future very clearly. In your view, what are some of the themes, products, technologies, concepts that will be top of mind for cybersecurity marketers, I don't know, 12 months from now?
That's a great question. So I think there are two that immediately come to mind, and one would be looking at the overall marketing tech stack. And
Mhm.
in my view, there's absolutely a role for many existing and new technologies, but I think we need to take a step back and really evaluate based on the company, the team, the resources you have. What are those that are going to deliver value short term versus midterm versus long term? And do you have the ability to really use and digest those tools to their fullest? If
Mhm.
not, I think having a giant buffet of tech that sits unused is probably not the most productive use of time, right? And so I would use um, ABM platforms as one example, not to pick on anything. But if you don't have a team that really has the time and the aptitude to make the most of those tools, um, they're going to sit unused. And you can drive ABM type programs without an ABM platform, right? There are other ways to do that. So I think it's really about evaluating what makes sense for your organization, uh,
Mhm.
and is that the best way to go about it today?
Absolutely.
The other thing I think is going to be really interesting to see how it unfolds, and I don't have a specific prediction, but I think just generally speaking, is to see how AI becomes part of the sort of marketing mix and part of our DNA as marketers going forward in terms of looking at content creation,
Mhm.
plan development, data analysis, et cetera. And I think what'll probably happen is there'll be a rush to adopt, and a lot of mistakes are going to be made. So I think what'll be useful for myself and every other marketer is to really pay attention. And I think to be open with one another and to share what we've learned.
Mhm.
Again, it's, a team of marketers around the world. What can we teach each other in terms of how these new technologies are unfolding, how it's supporting our business, or was there a pile of mud we stepped in because we didn't see two or three, steps down the road? So I guess when I look a year ahead, those are a couple of things that I would anticipate.
Sure. Well, as they say, the pioneers are the ones with arrows on their backs, right?
Absolutely.
Or,
Yeah.
or my new favorite, the second mouse gets the cheese.
There you go. I like that. I'm gonna write that one down.
Awesome. Well, Dave, this was lots of fun. Where can people find you? What's the best way to connect?
So I'm on LinkedIn's a great way. So David Howell. Also ThreatX website, which is
Mhm.
threatx.com.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.